guys, welcome to the Chalkboard. My name is Eric Milner, and as you've probably noticed if you're a devotee, we've been on a little bit of a break. You may have also noticed that you haven't heard Micah yet this episode, and that's because he's not here tonight. Don't worry, he will be back. He just had a new baby, so there may be an episode here or there that he's not able to make. Don't start any online rumors about us feuding. I don't want to see any free Micah hashtags out there. He is still very much one half of the Chalkboard podcast. Starting right now, though, the Chalkboard is back, baby. We are going to be giving you new episodes each and every Monday. Also, as a special treat for everybody, starting today, we are going to be bringing back Movies with Friends. Every episode, we're going to sit down with a friend of ours to talk about a movie that's been nominated for an Academy Award in the Best Picture category. The 90th Annual Academy Awards are airing March 4th, 2018, and there are 9 Best Picture nominations. So we got a lot of ground to cover in just a short month. And if I'm completely honest, Darkest Hour, you're going to be lucky if we get to you because you're pretty low on the priority list. So we might have left you for a little bit, but don't worry. You're going to get a lot of content from us in February 2018. Now with all of that housekeeping out of the way, let's dive into Movies with Friends 2018. Alex and Austin Ward are quite the pair. They're brothers, best friends. They play in a band called The Noise FM, and they even host a podcast called By Grabthar's Hammer, What a Podcast, which celebrates the 1999 space adventure, Galaxy Quest. I met them through 2 mutual friends, and they've actually even been featured on 2 previous episodes of the Chalkboard podcast, which I really encourage everyone to check out because they were some of the favorite memories I have doing the Chalkboard. The Wards are a couple of the funniest guys that I've ever had the pleasure of sitting down with. Their energy and charisma make them easy to chat with, and they are masterful about telling stories as well as getting sidetracked. For Movies with Friends, I chatted with them about Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. This was their favorite movie of the year, and it was the first movie that they suggested we talk about for this episode. So, without any further ado, here's my conversation with Alex and Austin Ward about Dunkirk. All right, I am here with Austin and Alex Ward from the Noise FM.
How's it going, Eric?
Dude, it's going good. It's really good to talk to you guys again.
Glad
you guys
to be
are some
back.
of my favorite hangs as guests.
I should say we're also accompanied by one of our cats, Newt. So if you hear some real cute meowing in the background, that's not Alex. That is our cat.
That's cute Newt. That's cute Newt.
She's down
Cute
here
Newt.
hanging out. She also likes to talk about movies, so she wants to hang out with us.
Did you guys ever listen to the episode we did with Isaac and Garrett where Garrett's dog was still a puppy?
I did listen to that.
Oh, I
I
don't
listened
think
to
I've
that.
heard this
It was
one,
great.
no.
It was a fantastic episode.
There was so much editing out her barks. There was like so much more barking than anyone will ever know.
That's so funny because that was right about the time Garrett got that puppy, Luna.
Yeah,
and
Luna.
at
Yeah.
that point, we had stayed with Garrett, and at one point, Luna had peed on Austin's shoes or something. I
Peed
can't
on
remember.
like someone's slipper, and then immediately went into the kitchen, like peed again, like on a rug. And it was just one of those, like, just puppy life. There you
It
go.
was,
like,
man.
just constantly
Yeah.
cleaning up urine.
When he got that dog, he was just not impressed with puppy life. He was just
No,
like, what
yeah,
have I done?
Yeah.
I think now he's well into it and doing all right.
Yeah. Apparently, Luna pees much less inside now, so that's good.
We're here to talk about Dunkirk, which is the Academy Award nominee for Best Picture at the 90th Annual Academy
Oh
Awards,
gosh,
which is
that's a
crazy.
90. Wow, man.
The big 9-0.
Yeah, I remember number 17.
Yeah, classic 17. That's my favorite one.
Yeah, that was a
That
good
was a
year.
good one.
that was a good
That was a
one.
great one.
Quick, name one movie from the 17th annual.
The
Oscar.
Music Man.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Nope, I
I
have
love
no
The
idea.
Music
No
Man.
idea.
That was a big musical for me growing up.
Music
I
Man.
love The Music Man. Yeah,
Oh,
he's a
yeah.
what? He's a what? He's a music man.
Trouble. I'm
There's a lot
watching.
there.
I'm currently watching the TV show Marvelous Miss Maisel on Amazon, and
Is that a musical?
no, it's not. But they,
Sounds like it.
in the TV show,
yeah,
they
right.
went to a musical production of The Music Man today.
Oh, that's cute.
Oh,
Yeah, so
that's
that-
awesome.
Anyways, so let's-
Coincidence, anyway.
Let's talk about Dunkirk.
Yeah. So Dunkirk was written and directed by Christopher Nolan. It's starring Fionn Whitehead, Tom Glyn Carney, Jack Lowden, Harry Styles, and Cillian Murphy. And if you look at my notes, it says Harry Styles twice. So
Oh, nice.
Oh,
I
you're
almost-
really
I almost
excited
did
about
it.
that, huh?
And Tom,
really pumped about it.
and Tom Hardy.
We'll save
I don't know if
that.
you mentioned Tom Hardy.
Oh, Tom Hardy. That's who I meant to write, but I just wrote Harry Styles twice.
Yeah,
because-
hey, I
Big,
make that
big One
mistake all
Direction
the
guy
time,
over here.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess
All
we
right.
should also. Christopher Nolan was nominated Best Director as well for Dunkirk, which
Oh,
His first nomination.
Which it is, yeah. And beyond, I mean, I was very stoked to see Dunkirk nominated for Best Picture because, in my opinion, it was the best film of the year. But whenever I saw him get a nomination for directing, I think I got even more excited just because I feel like it's about damn time that they finally recognized Nolan.
It is an odd thing that Christopher Nolan has not been nominated for anything prior to this.
But I think a lot of that is, I mean, his movies up until now have been way more blockbusters. They're blockbusters, but they're really, really good movies. But they just happen to be in that blockbuster scene. Whereas, Dunkirk, it's a war film. It's like it's kind of Oscar bait when you read about it and see the trailer. But in reality, it's also a phenomenal movie.
And there was a surprising amount of backlash. A lot of people were surprised when The Dark Knight wasn't nominated at the time.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that would have been one of the first big superhero movies that would have been nominated. But I think a lot of people were disappointed that he didn't break through with that one.
Yeah, but I guess Heath Ledger got nominated and won.
Yeah, you got the posthumous nominee. Whenever you're disappointed about it'd be like being disappointed that Star Wars: The Last Jedi wasn't nominated.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a different thing.
It's a different thing.
It's sort of like Album of the Year. An Album of the Year nomination might as well be its own genre.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's not the same thing. And I don't think staying power or like movies that you'll remember forever necessarily just give you the nomination, even though in my personal opinion, they maybe should.
Yeah.
But
absolutely, yeah.
We've all agreed to the rules of the Best Picture nominees, so you can't really be bummed about it.
And Austin and I still get worked up when the announcements, the nominees are released. There's always some disappointments, and we're like, did the voters not see these movies? And then we realize, like we always say, the Academy Awards, they're not really for us. The nominations aren't for us.
True.
No,
they're geared at a different audience.
I think the only thing that bugs me and Alex especially, because we talk about this way too much, but like around award season, is that on average the movies that get nominated are such kind of Oscar bait. Like you're just not surprised at what gets nominated. But
there's all sorts of predictions ahead of time.
Absolutely. And then you look at the list and you're like, I bet, maybe one of these in 20 years will be remembered and people will still
talk about it, still be watching it.
Yeah, like rewatching it. And then the other 8 are totally going to be forgotten just because it's that type of drama film that's popular with these nominations.
I'll say it is exciting this year, though. There is a little bit of overlap of like what mine or Austin's like personal favorites of the year would be. There's not usually a lot of overlap between like my favorite movies of the year and then the Best Picture nominees. This year there's a little bit of overlap. Like it is very cool that The Shape of Water and Get Out were nominated. Those are 2 kind of genre specific movies that are a little shocking that they were actually nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, let's actually go over the Best Picture nominees before we get too far into Dunkirk. We have Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, which we're talking about, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Yes.
So, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and honestly, out of that list, we were talking about a bit ago, but I've personally seen all of them except The Post and Darkest Hour, and Alex has seen all of them except Darkest Hour. And every single one that's on that list, I thoroughly enjoyed, and I really do think it's a good list. There's just other movies.
There's one snub in particular, hands down.
What, Logan?
No. Well, no, that's another. That's a huge thing,
though.
That Logan is the first superhero movie aside from the Invincible
Incredibles.
The Incredibles. I'm sorry, the Pixar movie. Logan is the first superhero movie to have achieved or been nominated for a major Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay.
I'd say it's adapted screenplay, right?
Yes, and that's I've been reading quite a bit about that, where that is a bit of a breakthrough as far as like superhero movies getting a little bit of awards recognition. Anyway, the biggest snub that I thought was hands down the best movie of the year, in my opinion, was Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
And
for Best Picture snub, you mean?
For Best Picture or Best Direction.
Yeah.
It did get 5 Oscar nominations for technical awards, which is fantastic.
Definitely deserved those technical nominations.
But aside from Blade Runner not being nominated, I'm pretty happy with the movies that were nominated for Best Picture.
Just a little inside baseball for you guys. We're going to be releasing this on January 29th, which is my birthday.
Ooh,
and
happy birthday today then, yeah?
Hey, yeah, that's right. Happy birthday from
birthday.
The past in the present.
Yeah.
That's some Christopher Nolan Inception stuff there.
That is. I have one goal on my birthday, I would really love to watch Blade Runner the new one because I haven't seen it yet.
Oh boy!
And it's now available, so I just want to kind of lock myself in my room and devote the 4 hours that it's going to take to watch it.
It is a long one. We've seen it 3 times now. We saw it twice in theaters, and then one of our buddies has like he has the ultimate entertainment system, 4K TV,
4K Blu-ray
HD
player,
all that jazz. And so we literally forced him to buy the 4K Blu-ray of the new Blade Runner, so just so we could go watch it, and we did. And
I like that you forced him to do it rather than just buy it for him.
Yeah. That's the thing, because basically, I mean, he's the guy who can afford a 4K TV. It's like
sure, yeah.
It's like, so dude, you can afford the $30 4K disc. It's like, I'm not gonna buy it because I don't have it, but I'm gonna come over and watch it.
And Eric, I don't want to take anything away from your birthday viewing experience, but I will say, and we can talk about this more here in just a bit, aside from Dunkirk, Blade Runner 2049 is the only other movie this year that needed to be seen on a big screen to get the full experience.
I had that fear, but man, it's hard to commit that time.
Oh, it is. It's almost a 3-hour movie.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, I'm gonna regret it. I know, but also I'm kind of okay with it.
Stoked to your thoughts on it, though. We were very pleased with it.
We'll do a follow-up. Let's do a follow-up podcast.
Text you.
Yeah, please do.
I thought you're talking about snubs. I was there was 2 snubs I was surprised by, and not necessarily because I loved them so much. First one was I, Tonya. I thought for sure that was going to be nominated to the point where I watched it ahead of time and had someone queued up to do an interview earlier this week and had to cancel on them. Yeah.
Oh no.
I was trying to get ahead of the game, and so we had to cancel.
You still could have talked to them about Margot Robbie, though, who I thought was phenomenal.
Yeah, she's great.
She was great in it. She was really good. I like that movie a lot. One of my favorite movies of the year was The Big Sick, though.
Oh yeah,
I thought.
Oh yeah,
The Big Sick was so good, and it got nominated for screenplay.
Yeah, that's one of those that came out at the beginning of the year that I completely even forgot that was 2017. It's one of those that because I watched it, I think when it came out on DVD or Blu-ray, and by that point and that was even a while ago.
Oh, we watched that over Christmas break with Mom and Dad. That was to anyone listening, a fantastic holiday film for when you're home with your mom and dad or parents for an extended time. The Big Sick. That's a great watch for the family.
It's really good. It's a soft R rating. It's not
soft R.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And I've been following Kumal on Twitter, and him and his wife have been tweeting back and forth just about how excited they are to be nominated. They can't get over.
It's their life story.
It's their life story. Yeah. It's so cute to see it though play out on Twitter.
The only other, I wouldn't say it'd be a snub, but kind of just disappointment was we were big fans of The Disaster Artist, mainly just because of the story in general that it's telling.
Yeah.
And whenever, in the movie I thought was hysterical. I loved it. But whenever it got nominated for a Golden Globe and then James Franco won and brought Tommy Wiseau on stage, the idea of them recreating that at the Academy Awards, I was so excited to see that, just because of what a crazy story that would be, that Tommy had this vision of winning an Oscar.
He knew, Tommy knew that he was going to win an Academy Award someday.
But the twist being that it was for the completely opposite reason why he might be up there. So I was a bit disappointed that James Franco didn't get the nomination, but. Oh, well, we got it at the Golden Globes.
I feel like if that movie got nominated, it would just be so inside baseball.
Oh, it would very much so.
Absolutely.
It'd just be a head-scratcher.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And not to keep us off Dunkirk, but one final movie that Austin and I both saw and I think really enjoyed was a movie called Good Time with Robert Pattinson. And I don't even know how many theaters it went through. It was a very limited release, but it's one movie that has really stuck with me after we saw that. It was a fantastic movie. The performances were great, but it was definitely a very small, gritty movie that it's not an Academy Award, Oscar bait kind of movie.
Definitely not Oscar bait, but it was one of the more original movies I've seen in a very long time. Like, the story itself was, original, but just the way they shot it and the vibe that it gives is really bizarre, but in a really cool way.
Yeah, very cool movie.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to check that one out. You need to text me that one so I can watch that.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Maybe after Blade Runner.
Yeah. It's one of those that Robert Pattinson, he's going to be something special. He's already something special, but I think he still gets that
Twilight
flack. But I mean, when you see him in anything other than Twilight, he's a phenomenal actor.
He's gotten really good. He takes on really risky, like outside the box roles. Like he's clearly trying to get away from.
He was
Twilight.
It's almost like that
days.
Leo path.
Yeah.
after
Oh yeah.
Twilight.
Definitely.
That's
Totally.
definitely the best comparison I've found is that it's like a Leo thing where he immediately jumped out of that Twilight thing and wanted to go kind of gritty indie route.
Yeah, he took a hard left.
He
into
was
some
in
weird-
Lost City of Z, which was also a phenomenal movie, and he was super good in that too.
I can't believe that one didn't get nominated. I really enjoyed that one.
And to me, that's almost like an Oscar bait movie. I mean, it's this kind of like epic story that really kind of spans a huge time frame and tells an awesome story. And then, it didn't get anything. I was very bummed with that one.
I was real surprised. All right, well, let's dive into the questions about Dunkirk. So with Movies with Friends this year, what I'm doing is I have 5 questions about each movie that we're talking about. And so they're going to be the same 5 for each guest. So we're going to start with these, and then we'll kind of get into some more just general conversation about the movie. So the first question is, right now, Dunkirk, as of this recording, is sitting at 51 odds to win Best Picture at the 90th Academy Awards. I want to know why you guys think it should win.
Good question.
Because Austin, you said this was your favorite movie of the year, or one of at least.
Yeah, I would if I had to actually make a list, I would probably put it as number 1.
Sure.
I will say for the listeners, I feel bad already because normally we like giggle a lot on these podcasts, and I like to think that we can be kind of humorous.
But when it comes to Christopher Nolan, we don't screw
honestly,
around.
Joking around.
When it comes to films in general, but honestly, especially Nolan, which is my personal favorite director, there's nothing funny about it. We get real hardcore talk. But yeah, I'll keep my answer short for Dunkirk. I think it deserves to win because I think it is the definition of film and cinema at its all-time best in today's day and age.
Oh, man.
That just doesn't exist anymore. Like, I look at the list of the other Best Picture nominees and nothing comes close to the cinematic scope and technical just
the scale and
the
the
scale and the ambition and the technical feat that Nolan was able to pull off with Dunkirk. I don't think any other movie this year came close to touching what he pulled off. So I think it deserves to win Best Picture.
I thought the aesthetic of the movie was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like it felt like almost like Great Escape-esque, the way the colors looked and stuff like that. How it almost felt like it was from the 50s. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Nolan has a way to make like cinematic achievement.
Yeah,
when it's unbelievable. All right, Alex, what about you? Why should it win?
Oh, I second everything Austin said. I'll say hands down, and we'll probably get to this here in a bit. I think it is Christopher Nolan's best movie, and because I think Christopher Nolan might be the best working director today by default, I think it's just the best movie of the year. Like Austin was saying, there's just nothing that had the ambition and scale of Dunkirk, which in and of itself doesn't mean that doesn't make a good movie. There's lots of huge, epic scale movies that come out every year, but something about this movie, how tight and efficient it was.
Yeah, it wasn't that long.
No, that's a whole nother
40.
Yeah, that's a whole nother side of Christopher Nolan we haven't seen before either, where his tendency over the last several movies has been to get longer and longer.
Yeah, you wouldn't call him lean.
No, and in my opinion, maybe it's, I think he's great, but sometimes he suffers a little, under the own weight of his own movies. And he made it a point in all of his interviews leading up to this that he didn't think audiences could handle any more of Dunkirk if it was longer than 2 hours because it was so relentless and intense. And, for that an hour, whatever it is, 116 minutes long that it was, that was the most immersed I was in a movie all year long. You walk out of the theater and you were just sweating. And for better or worse, for better or worse, no other movie made me feel that way. It gave me that kind of visceral experience.
You're drained, but in a good way, but you're drained by the time you get out of it. Whenever I saw it, the small side anecdote, but whenever I saw it the first time, I was out in New York visiting some friends, and we went, I think it would have been a Monday, but we went in the middle of the day in New York and went to the biggest IMAX screen that we could find. Is that you? Is you buzzing more?
I think that was me. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. I couldn't. I was like,
Austin. I thought it was Austin just getting really excited to talk about Dunkirk.
I'm just literally jittering.
Your pacemaker started popping a little fast.
My body's vibrating.
Dad, I'll call you back.
Yeah. But anyway, so I was out in New York, and we went to the biggest IMAX screen I've ever seen. It was so loud, and the movie itself, like Nolan also has a tendency to mix really hot, like sound effects, like gunshots, especially in Dunkirk. It was super intense, and the movie ends, and me and my buddy are in the lobby of the movie theater, and we're just kind of like literally just staring at the ground, kind of talking, trying to say our thoughts, but both of our eyes are just bloodshot because the movie's so intense. And we're standing there, and literally 3 feet away, my buddy nudges me, and 3 feet away from me is Aziz Ansari standing there.
Aziz Ansari?
Ansari?
I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Aziz
was there.
Aziz was with 2 buds, and they had all just walked out of Dunkirk as well, and they're standing right next to me. And my buddy's like, oh, dude, that's like Aziz. Like, should we say something? You want to get a photo? And I'm like, dude, I can't even think about that right now. Like, my eyes are bloodshot. And I look over.
We just survived Dunkirk.
Yeah, and I looked over, and the 2 people that were with Aziz were clearly stoked to, like, be with him. Like, I don't know how close of friends they were, but you could tell they were stoked to be standing with Aziz. So they were all talking at him. And I looked over at him, and his eyes were down at the ground. His eyes were completely bloodshot, and he wasn't saying a damn word back to him because you could tell that he was like, he got Dunkirked real hard.
He got Dunkirked real hard,
yeah,
man.
and so me and my buddy were just kind of laughing, watching him just completely zoned out, like ignoring all of his friends because he had clearly had an intense experience with Dunkirk like we all did. But, God, what a film.
What a film! What a film, Eric.
Yeah, we actually went and saw it twice in IMAX.
Yeah, we did.
They did a quick re-release a couple weeks ago, kind of for Oscar season, and we went and saw it again, and it was.
I like that you guys are multiple viewers of a movie. Like you saw Blade Runner 3 times.
Yeah,
that's a rare thing anymore.
Absolutely,
we don't have time for that.
Yeah.
I got to find the next new thing.
Yeah, and I have a tendency to do that too, and then I start thinking about how much. This gets in a whole nother conversation about how much art and work goes into something that sometimes you just kind of take it for granted. You go see a movie and you just kind of let it wash over you and you don't think about it and then you move on to the next movie. And especially when it comes to the nominees for like Best Picture, clearly these must be, in someone's opinion, these are good movies. If maybe I didn't get it the first time, the least I can do is give it a second chance. That's why I actually watched 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri for the second time with Austin earlier today. And I'll just say that one did not improve anymore.
It didn't get happier.
That movie I think is one of the front runners.
It is,
and it's going to suffer the backlash that I think La La Land had that last year, where it's like everybody's in and then everybody's out.
Yes, and sometimes movies get that, they get a buzz peak just a little bit too early, and the downside of that is like La La Land was the front runner, then it had the backlash, ended up not winning. But I did think it was deserving. I thought La La Land was fantastic.
Well, it won for 30 seconds.
Yeah, briefly won.
There's an asterisk next to it, but it won.
Of all the movies, and again, admittedly, we haven't seen The Darkest Hour. Of all the Best Picture nominees, I will only be kind of disappointed if 3 Billboards ends up winning. The other ones, I think I would be fine with all of them, but 3 Billboards, something just rubbed me about it the wrong way.
I will say, out of the list, out of the ones that I've seen, 3 Billboards is probably my least favorite out of the Best Picture nominees. But
so enjoy watching 3 Billboards this weekend, Eric.
Anyways.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm really excited to go see that tomorrow night. All right, let's go into why Dunkirk should not win.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, Alex, you want to field this one?
Sure. Great, because you guys loved it so much. I'm excited to play devil's advocate here.
It should not win because it wasn't the best picture of the year, in my opinion. That was either Blade Runner or maybe Mother. I enjoyed Mother quite a bit, too. But if there's any reason that Dunkirk shouldn't win, it would be because Christopher Nolan has a tendency to definitely overthink and overplan his films and squeeze... And I think it's a positive, but he squeezes the life out of his movies, where some people I could understand why they would have a hard time emotionally connecting with them. And I'll admit, like Lady Bird, Call Me By Your Name, both had more emotional moments for me than Dunkirk did. Well, that's not entirely true. The second time
I'm
I watched,
a sucker for the emotional moments.
Yeah, and then the second time we watched Dunkirk, there's a couple emotional beats in it that hit me way harder than it did the first time, and I appreciated it even more.
I think Nolan always does that very well. Like if he gets emotional, like if I think about Interstellar,
Oh man,
Like that's just a very emotional, a very emotional movie. And I mean, there's time like I wouldn't say there's much emotion in Dark Knight. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe when he shows
you can
up,
find it.
he shows up to Harvey Dent instead of Rachel. That was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah. So for me, if there's any reason that Dunkirk shouldn't win, it's that maybe it's not as personal as some of the other movies. Even though I know to Christopher Nolan it was very personal to make that movie, but to me maybe it was a little more difficult to relate to.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the similar answer to Alex. I think the only reason why it shouldn't win is I also get a huge high off of getting emotional with movies. It's kind of like
because we don't show emotion in our real lives.
It could be. I think we
release it during movies.
We're so goofy and we giggle so much normally that whenever I watch a movie, I love to like really get invested in the characters and get emotional with them. And honestly, I cry frequently during movies. And out of the nominees, Dunkirk was one of the. It didn't have the emotional punch that Nolan can do, like you said. Look at Interstellar, like that movie's just that gets me every time. But Dunkirk, I think since it was such a lean hour and a half war movie, that it was a little harder to cram in his character emotions that he's normally able to do. Which in like a movie,
and there was so many characters too.
It was. That's exactly right. And like I connected more with the British, the family, the dad and the son and the other boy on the boat.
That was my favorite part.
That was emotional.
Everything on their boat, I was totally invested in. I loved them and I was connected to them on an emotional level where even the main character, I really struggled to get on that emotional front with him just because he didn't talk at all, which I thought was great. But it was a little trickier.
Well, in the way Christopher Nolan constructed the movie, I think he knew that. I think that I don't want to say that the family on the boat, Mr. Dawson, Peter, and George, I think were their names. I don't want to say that they were shoehorned into the movie, but they were clearly the emotional hook of the movie.
Yeah.
And that
was their purpose.
Yeah, that was their purpose to like they put a human face on a smaller scale of the war. And that's why I think by default their arc was the most emotional.
And they also represented the story. Like they were the heroes, which is the whole point of the movie was that in the end, all these families came to rescue everyone. And
it wasn't about the soldiers.
That was our connection. Yeah. But then like a movie like Call Me By Your Name, which we just watched like last week, was an emotional feast. That's
what I've heard.
It is an absolutely beautiful movie. Like I honestly was a little skeptical going in to watch it just because I'd heard about it, but I was like, I don't know, it's not really my type of thing normally. And it was, I hadn't cried that hard in a while.
Yeah, just a.
So like a movie like that, which I get so much out of that emotional connection with those characters, makes me think something like Call Me By Your Name should maybe win, and more so than like Dunkirk. But I still think Dunkirk should win.
Just going back to thinking
so all that said,
no matter what.
all that said, Dunkirk needs to win.
Dunkirk should win.
Yeah. This is probably harder for Dunkirk than any other movie. But who do you think gave the best performance? Because you got such limited time with everybody.
True.
In Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. There were actually some of my favorite performances of the year were in Dunkirk. Kenneth Branagh as the Branagh.
Yeah.
We should know his name by now. Yeah. Anyway, as the
he's only directed like so many movies.
I know.
And started just as many.
Yeah.
He was the captain or admiral, whatever his position was. What could have been kind of a one-note, typical war general role. He just put a lot of heart and emotion into.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree.
And it was that final line where he said, everybody was evacuating from the Dunkirk, and he stayed behind to make sure that he was going to help. He was going to stay until the French also were able to evacuate.
Yeah.
And that was just one of those moments you're like, man, it just like a simple line and the way he delivers it, you get this entire arc of his character. I thought he was fantastic.
And then Tom Hardy, which he's getting a good rap for being able to perform with his eyes,
with a mask.
He
can always wear a mask.
I completely agree.
And he's kind of known for that. And honestly, Nolan said that whenever he was casting this one, he knew that whoever would be that part would be in a mask the whole time. So that's why he casted Tom, because he had such a good experience in The Dark Knight Rises. And I don't know if it's the acting that Tom did as much as maybe just the story they wrote for that character. But
what if he would have done that whole role in the Bane voice?
Yeah, that would have been amazing.
Dunkirk
I
and
was
Bane.
born in it.
If that's not already something on
Yeah,
YouTube,
I
you've got to get on that, Eric.
gotta
And if
be-
not,
Yeah.
we will get on that
Overdone it.
immediately.
But yeah, like so, like the end. I mean, to me, the biggest emotional punch of Dunkirk was at the very end when Tom Hardy character flies back around. He's out of fuel.
Oh, man.
Literally glides back around and saves
Over the beach.
Yeah, over
Oh,
the beach
yeah.
and saves him one last time, and they all cheer, and it cuts to him, and he doesn't do anything. He literally just looks out the window, but you just start.
Well,
crying.
and you know
Because
he's
it's
literally he's gliding to his
the
doom.
death. Yeah, and he knows it. Like, and that was the thing. Like earlier in the film when he knows he can't. He's like, I got to either return back home now, or I'm never going home. And he makes that decision to save everyone. But again, like his acting was great there, but
Because you believed him the entire
that's
time.
True, yeah.
And that was another fine example of Christopher Nolan doing something really cool, where all of Christopher Nolan's movies seem to be created and constructed around the musical score. He usually collaborates with Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
So all of his movies are set to a beat and sometimes kind of an overbearing score. Same way with Dunkirk. But at that scene, if I'm not mistaken, that's the first time the movie's quiet the entire time when he
At the
kind of
end,
takes off his mask
when
and
he's
he's just gliding,
Yeah.
and there's just no sound other than him gliding.
Yeah.
And that's just a cool use of sound that nobody else seems to be doing aside from Christopher Nolan, like the way he uses the soundtrack to, really
Lack of music at times.
and then sometimes
Yeah.
the lack
Yeah,
of a soundtrack
yeah.
to
The
really put
combination.
you in a certain mental space. And then the we could go on about this forever. Another performance, and it's not even.
Killing Murphy was amazing too. By the way,
See, he was good,
incredible.
but the kid.
He's low key the best actor in my opinion. I love Cillian Murphy. He's so
yeah.
good.
oh, he's
yeah.
fantastic. And
Did you see? What was he in Firefight? Did you see that? Was that what it was called?
Free Fire.
Free Fire. Free Fire.
The shoot where they're all in a warehouse with
Yeah.
guns shooting at each other.
I
Yes.
don't think I've
That's
seen
really
that.
the whole movie, and it's incredible.
It's directed by Ben Wheatley, who did the movie called Kill List a few years
Oh,
ago.
yeah, that's right.
That's a fun one. I saw that one in theaters. That was fun.
Yeah, that was cool. That was a real cool movie.
Anyway, your point.
Oh,
Though.
on the boat playing off of Cillian Murphy was the kid, and I forget the actor. He was Peter.
Yeah, Peter.
One of the other heartbreaking moments of the movie I thought was after poor little George had passed away because of Cillian Murphy, and then Cillian Murphy kind of is coming to his senses, and he asks, "Is the boy going to be all right?" And Peter, his best friend, has just died, and he looks Cillian Murphy in the eye and says, "Yeah, he's going to be fine."
Yeah, lies
just
to
because
him.
he already realizes how much this soldier has been through. And it's
Oh,
it's
man,
just a
I
heart,
forgot about that part.
and you realize
Yeah.
like Peter has become, he's a teenager, but he just became a hero
Yeah.
in his own right.
Because right when he lies to him, then he looks at his dad like for approval of what he just did, and his dad gives him the nod of like.
And the
"You
amazing
did the
Mark
right
Rylance
thing."
gives
he's
just
so
with a
good,
nod of
Oh,
approval
man.
makes you want to cry also.
He might have been my
Oof.
favorite actor in that. Gosh, yeah.
So
There's a lot there.
Yeah, so a movie that is really about like a mob of soldiers, just a gang of people, really did a good job of putting faces on the soldiers and connecting you to
Yeah.
like their backstories without really writing out their backstories.
Yeah. And
No, I
honestly, Harry
completely
Styles
agree.
was pretty damn good too.
Yeah?
Yeah,
I was-
we're gonna come back to him.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, cool.
We're gonna come back to him. So Dunkirk ends, credits roll. What was the first thought that kind of ran through your head? We've sort of talked about it a little bit, but
Mine immediately was, Jesus Christ, I have a headache.
yeah.
In the best way.
Yeah,
In the way that only Christopher Nolan can give me a headache.
I definitely, on my first viewing, I definitely was like, that was the loudest sound mix I think I've ever heard. And it also happened just to be the biggest screen I'd ever witnessed, like an IMAX screen. But my initial reaction was, I don't know how Christopher Nolan filmed that movie. Like some of those
Yeah.
scenes, I immediately, like me and Alex, we love movies so much, and we also do a little like videography work ourselves. So sometimes I'll get way too analytical and looking at like, how did they film this? Like, what's that? What's the setup here? How did they pull this shot off? And there were so many shots in that movie that I have no idea how they did. Just like the mass scale of literally an actual sinking ship.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then they, a plane flying over, so you get the perspective from in the plane, but then it's looking down through the plane at an actual ship that's sinking. Like, what? How did they do that?
Well, and Austin and I talked about this too. Like, we were thinking, surely all the directors of big films go see each other's movies throughout the course of the year. we were asking ourselves, how could every other director in the world not walk away from Dunkirk asking themselves, like, will I ever be that good?
Yeah.
Or will I ever be able to make something like that? Because
it's a feat for sure.
It's a technical, I don't want to say miracle, but it's a marvel what he did.
Well, and that's really rare today. Like, we're not living in the age of like the 80s where Spielberg was just doing crazy stuff that no one had seen before. Like, when you look at Poltergeist, it's like, man, there's some crazy stuff going on in there. But like now, nothing's really that like nothing really shocks people anymore.
Yeah.
But I feel like every time I see a Nolan movie, I'm shocked by like what he accomplished.
Sorry.
What was your all's favorite scene in the movie?
I don't know if it's my favorite, but the one that I always constantly think about because it was so traumatizing was when they're in the hull of the ship, the beached boat, and the soldiers are doing target practice at their boat, and meanwhile they're also fighting inside because they figure out that the one guy's a French soldier, and like that's all one scene, and it's just the most intense scene, and it's.
That also wins the award for loudest scene I've ever heard in my entire life.
I remember jumping at that scene when the first bullet hits. Yeah. I just, I almost broke the chair in front of me.
Yeah, because I mean that's one of those scenes. Like it's hard to recreate what that would have been like in person to be a soldier in that scenario. But just the way that they cranked the bullets so loud that you felt like it was an actual gunshot in the theater. It was insane. Gosh. Yeah.
Oh man.
But I think my favorite moment, which I mentioned a bit ago, is when Tom Hardy's plane at the end swoops back around. I agree. It's just a total hero moment that's hard to get nowadays in movies, and I just felt amazing during that scene.
Yeah, and
that's mine as well.
Yeah, I would say the entire introduction scene, Christopher Nolan. Well, Christopher Nolan, and I don't want to say that it's like a gimmick. It's not like M. Night Shyamalan always having like a twist ending, but no one begins movies like Christopher Nolan. Like that's become the hook ever since Dark Knight with the bank heist scene.
Dark Knight was.
It's become a point like he almost outdoes himself with the introduction scene to every movie he does, and this introductory scene was just terrifying. Again, like it immediately put you in the world. You know, it's so calm and quiet with these soldiers walking through France, the city in France, towards the beach. You don't know what's going on, and then all of a sudden, it is so unbearably loud and chaotic, and it just immediately tells you like right off the bat, like this is not going to be an enjoyable movie. And it is incredible. It hooks you right from the start.
My only pushback on your intro take is I think that Scorsese does it too. I think I look back at like The Departed, where it seems like it's always like 15 minutes in, and you get the rolling credit. Like he's very good at setting up his movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
you were kind of talking about how the movie is sort of jarring, and I think it's jarring in a lot of ways, like sound we've talked about, but also I thought the narrative structure was very jarring because there wasn't really like a plot. It was like we're on a beach and there's like gunfire.
Yep.
And that was sort of it. And there's a ton of mini stories within, but it felt like the movie was more just like a sandbox, and we were watching like different people play in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
And I remember the first viewing that I had. Whenever they explained 1 day, 1 hour, 1 week, I think a week, a day, an hour.
Yeah,
1 week,
so
1 day, 1 hour.
Set it up, but you don't upon first viewing, you really don't know what that means, and then it takes you about halfway to almost even 3/4 of the way through the movie where you connect the dots of it means this. When you're on the boat, it's 1 week. When you're on the shore,
classic Nolan timeline.
I was going to say the old switcheroo by Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan switcheroony.
And I going into it, I knew that he would pull some sort of non-linear storytelling because that's his absolute favorite thing to do. He does it in every single movie. But I was also surprised that he was able to pull it off with a war film because it's
a historical war film.
Exactly, and like what a cool story mechanism though to tell the story, a week story, an hour story, and a day story within 1 hour and a half film. I thought that was a brilliant way to do it. And then when you start connecting the dots and
you see where the timelines converge a little bit.
When the timelines converge and that starts kind of, showing the scene, showing perspective of the same scene, but from a different perspective. That's when I was like, God, Nolan, you did it again. Like you fooled me, but now I'm in. Like, yeah.
We were talking about Nolan messing around with war movies and timelines of war movies. Do you feel like movies based on real events, specifically war movies, should almost be in their own category in the Academy Awards? Because like, how do you put Get Out against Dunkirk.
That's the problem. How do you how do you
Yeah.
compare Dunkirk and
Lady Bird.
The Shape of Water? Those are two. Dunkirk is an ultra realistic film, and then The Shape of Water is like kind of a fantastical
Fairy
fable.
tale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man, I
mean,
just don't know.
I would agree with because anytime there's a war film, well, most times when there's a war film, it usually gets some Oscar nods of some kind because it's usually an epic film, usually done well, like Dunkirk was. But it's at the same time, it's like it seems unfair sometimes because it's
it
like
does.
if you're gonna tell a war movie, it's like the viewers, you almost have to go see it and you have to appreciate it because it's based on such hard history.
We had some friends that didn't want to see Dunkirk because it was a war movie, and they just said they don't like war movies.
Yeah.
And you can't fault them for that.
True.
But at the same time, you're like you're missing out on an amazing piece of art.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I don't watch certain types of movies. There's always exceptions to be made, and I think Dunkirk is definitely an example of that exception. Do you think it came out too early to win an Oscar? Because in the last 13 years, only 3 movies that were released in summer have won. It wasn't an Oscar season per se.
Yes, that is true, and that seems to be the trend.
Which that always kind of bugs me because you are absolutely right. It's kind of whatever the hot movie is. It always kind of ends up winning. Where something like Dunkirk, which came out, God, when did that come out? In
summer,
like July? Was that July?
Yeah,
like
it
late
was.
July or something, mid-July. Yeah, I mean it's hard to because like most people probably even forgot that even came out this year, and then they see the nominees and they're like, what's Dunkirk doing on there? It's like, well. It's the best picture,
and it's also
an incredible movie. I mean, he's a summer blockbuster director.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so his movie has to come out in the summer.
Yeah,
and tied into that too, it's not very often that the Academy Award recognizes as Best Picture a movie that also was kind of a big populist blockbuster mainstream movie. And Dunkirk surprisingly did. I was looking it up just a little bit ago. It ended up doing really well at the box office and made something like $500 million worldwide or something.
And I feel like in a short time too. Like it came and went. It felt like
yeah.
The hype of Dunkirk.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. Yeah, because we were just talking about this too the other day. Was that we were surprised that more people weren't continuing to talk about Dunkirk after it came out because like we saw it, our friends saw it, and everyone was like, "That was an incredible film." And then it was like, and then just no one was really talking about it
on to
anymore.
the next movie.
Yeah, and it was like
because it's not a good hang. It's a really hard movie to wrestle with. I mean, we can talk about it. We've been talking about it for 45 minutes, but
and that could be why it doesn't win too. Like, and I get that. It's not an enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not the best picture. Then I don't know.
But I also did enjoy 3 Billboards.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah,
for multiple reasons. Yeah.
If that wins, I think there's going to be trouble. We'd mentioned Harry Styles earlier. Mike and I had talked about this on a previous episode. I call it the multi-sport athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
When it's like in the vein of like the Rat Pack or Justin Timberlake. And Harry Styles came out strong in his first showing.
Absolutely did. Yeah.
It was a good debut.
I remember when Nolan announced that he was going to be in it.
I was real worried.
My knee-jerk reaction was like what the excuse my language. But it was like, come on, Nolan, what are you doing? But then I immediately was like, okay, wait, it's Nolan.
He knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. I guarantee you he screen tested the hell out of him to make sure that he could act. And then he did. And I thought he was awesome.
I thought he was great.
Really good. Yeah. Like he played a good kind of bit of an anti-hero. He's kind of the arrogant, kind of bad guy, but in the end, he's a hero too. But I thought he did a great job with it. Yeah, I'm very excited to see what he does next because I think he's got potential to be a massive star too.
Yeah, he had a good little start to summer. He did Sign of the Times and then this. Wasn't that the order? I'm trying to remember now.
He did.
Back-to-back hits, man.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I liked Sign of the Times.
I did
I
too.
agree, man. That was one of those, I did not expect him to go that route musically, and then I listened to the full record all the way through, and I was like, wow, I kind of really dig this.
It's super good.
It's like a kind of a Neil Young vibe. Yeah, I was pretty into it.
So we talked about where this goes as far as Nolan verse filmography. You guys put it on top?
Oh
boy,
Austin. Well, here, Austin can probably talk more about it.
Before you answer this, have you seen Inception? Because that, to me, holds the crown.
Yeah, we've seen all Nolan films way too many times each. Like, we watch a lot of Nolan in our household. And I just rewatched Inception last week or a week and a half ago.
Tom Hardy is so good in that.
Yeah.
And so is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I just love JGL, but yeah, he's great in that.
For me,
that's peak JGL.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. JGL was hot right
Yeah.
then.
Well, now I rewatched Looper last night. Just JGL side note, and that might be my favorite JGL performance.
Oh, he's really good in that.
So good in that. Anyways, go on, Alex. You go
I
ahead.
would have a tough time if I had to choose right now. It would either be The Dark Knight or Dunkirk as his best. I couldn't choose.
I would. I'm biased and partial towards his Batman films because beyond being a Nolan film, I'm obsessed with Batman as well. So I think I would go. I definitely would go Dark Knight as his number one, just because, beyond it being in a great Batman film, the fact that he was able to make, in my opinion, like one of the best movies ever made is a Batman movie. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because when you watch it, it's not a Batman film. It feels like this weird, like detective noir, like terrorist.
Well,
like
you know what it is. It's Heat.
It's
Heat.
Heat.
And he was very
for sure.
outspoken about that. Like whenever he does movies, he'll always either in interviews reference like what his vibe was he was going for, or like a lot of times on his social media, he'll like, or in interviews, he'll like post, a movie poster of what inspired him for it. And Heat was a big one for it. And when you
can
watch
just
the
tell
Dark
by
Knight,
the aesthetic.
the vibe, and it's so clean looking. It looks like a city detective movie. And but anyways, I can go on the whole side story.
The opening scene.
Then I also just rewatched all three of the Batman movies last month with a friend. Rewatched them all, and they're still just untouchable.
The Dark Knight Rises gets a bad rap, and Dark Knight Rises is not that bad. I enjoyed it.
I love it. I just watching it again for probably the 7th time. I was still blown away by just the ending, the emotional punch I get out of that film.
Eric, you said Inception's your favorite?
I think so. Inception to me is just peak Nolan in the sense. It gives you so much. I remember I saw the midnight showing and I was tired when I walked in. And the second the opening scene starts, you're at the edge of your seat the whole time. You're very invested in what's going on.
I totally agree. When Austin and I rewatched that recently, we talked about it afterwards, and this is why I think people do have a problem with Nolan, and I get it. Inception is 100% plot. There's some character development, but almost every line of dialogue serves a purpose to propel the story forward. It's incredible. It's incredible the way it's constructed, but I can also understand why that's not like an enjoyable experience for
to the point, because like when you watch Inception, if you don't pay attention, you will have no idea what's going on because
real quick you'll get lost.
Because every single line is purposely placed.
There's not a single wasted word in that movie.
And
everyone wants to try to punch holes in these kind of movies, like people with The Dark Knight with timelines and Inception. There's all these, but it's just like just enjoy it. People did that with the new Star Wars too. It's like, well, how do you drop bombs in space? It's like it's a fantasy movie.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
like let's just hang on for the ride here.
And the fact that like with Inception, that Nolan was literally created, wrote, and directed this out like crazy story about incepting dreams with 4 layers.
It was so intricately constructed.
But it's also an action movie. It's like, what is like the fact that he was able to pull that off and it made a shit ton of money.
Yeah,
like,
it's mind-blowing. Yeah.
It's
There's
crazy.
no other director like that.
Yeah, and then, but I will say Interstellar is a very close third for me. This mainly, we're also huge kind of space sci-fi fans, like the space in general, in the way that he again took a movie about space and made it into this fantastical time travel, like you think it's aliens, but it's not. Like it's what a crazy film that
I need to sit down with that one again. I haven't seen it since theaters. Not that I didn't like it. It just, that to me was my least favorite of his movies, but I still thought it was great. I need to revisit it.
Yeah. It's one of those that the more I watch it, the more I like it, because it's just such a. That's another one where I don't know how he pulled that one off, like just as a movie in general.
Yeah, the ambition of that one, and that might also.
It's a real good one.
Yeah, that one. You talk about a long movie though. That might be the longest.
So
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But
I hate how biased I am towards long movies. Like I would much rather a short movie every time.
Yeah. Oh, me and Alex are huge. Like if it's over 90 minutes, I better be impressed by it. Like we grew up. We grew up in the.
It better be a good trial run.
Like we grew up in the era of the 90s action film where literally every movie's 90 minutes long. Like Speed, Demolition Man.
That's all you had to do. Yeah.
Just need a tight 90.
Yeah, I want 3 parts: beginning, middle, and end.
Man.
Oh yeah, I just went to a midnight screening of that not too long ago.
Speaking of Speed, I looked this up just a little bit ago during pre-production on Dunkirk. Christopher Nolan had his cast and crew. He gave them about a dozen movies to give them an idea, like kind of a vision board, a mood board of the
Speed
movie.
was on there?
Speed was included, and I can only assume in that the way
Unreal.
the pacing of Speed, once it starts, it never stops.
It does not relent. Yeah.
You know, you can laugh at Speed if you want, but that movie's that's a tight 90, and it does not give up, man.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Speed is an incredible action movie.
Yeah.
Oh, so
It's
good.
so good.
You'll have to come up. We host our annual Speed and Margarita Day. We do a Speed watch party that coincides with National Margarita Day, and it's coming up in a couple weeks.
It's in-
Eric,
What
Yeah, it's like mid-February,
man.
late February. Yeah, we do it every year. I think
does it fall on a weekend?
This year's a
year-
Thursday.
It's a Thursday, unfortunately.
Yeah, but
we can move it to the weekend.
Sometimes we push it to the weekend, like just because it's fun to do a Saturday. Like we all make margaritas all day, and then you just watch Speed like a couple times, and we do like.
If I don't make it up, I may honestly just do a Kansas City satellite.
You should do that.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
And one additional step. Last year, we unlocked a new area of the map, and we watched on the DVD bonus features. They have the script for Speed, so we did a group Speed script reading with our group of people drinking margaritas.
Oh my
Highly
gosh.
recommend
Yeah,
it.
this is after we had just watched it, and then we read it like out loud to each other.
Which one of you were Dennis Hopper?
Oh, who was Dennis
I don't
Hopper?
know. I
We
think
both-
it was one of our buddies.
Yeah,
I
we-
know I got to be Jack. I
You
got
were
to be
Jack,
Keanu,
and I
which was
think
very
I got
that's
to be
good.
Jeff Daniels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
it's a
guys
lot
got
of
the real
fun.
wins there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's. I think that's as good a place as any to call it a good conversation.
If you ever
Ending
get to
with
speed in a conversation, you usually wrap it up after that. It's hard to top Speed.
I'll tell you, I recorded a quick intro before you guys came on, and one of the things I said was that they're masterful about telling stories as well as getting sidetracked. So
Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate you proving me right
Yeah,
ahead
perfect.
of time. So that's good. Guys, seriously, it's always a great time. I'm talking to you. We'll have to get you back on with Hembry real soon.
Oh,
Do you guys have
definitely,
anything
man.
coming up other than the fact that your podcast is back by Grabthar's Hammer? What a podcast! I listened.
All right.
You
How far?
dropped it like a week ago.
How far in did you make it? We usually have
I
a
went all the
hard
way
like
through,
7-minute cutoff.
My mom usually stopped listening about the 5-minute mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you guys got into the real detailed deep dive of Last Man Standing, I was hanging on.
Yeah, that's what usually happens. Yeah, I mean it's fun. It's one of those that we just love movies in general, and one of our favorite movies is Galaxy Quest. So we just like to get together and get real.
Yeah, the current list right now, best movies of all time is Blade Runner 2049, Dunkirk, Galaxy Quest,
Speed.
Galaxy
and
Quest.
with Speed in a close
Speed.
4.
Yeah,
Speed only one day a year, though.
That's
yeah,
right.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we
Well,
have
yeah.
lots of
But
Speed today.
if anybody's interested, definitely check out by Grabthar's Hammer. What a podcast! That, of course, is the famous
And I would
line
say it's
Yeah.
from
right.
Galaxy Quest.
And it's not just for fans of Galaxy Quest. You guys covered a lot. You talked about Blade Runner, Star
Yeah.
Wars.
We did.
If you're into sci-fi, you're going to like this. And I mean,
Yeah, it's
hopefully you got a taste from this episode. These two know their stuff about movies.
Yeah, it's a lot of sci-fi talk on our podcast. Like, because we quickly run out of things to talk about. Galaxy
You can only
Quest
talk
is-
about Tim Allen's history so
yeah.
much.
So we usually just always
You don't
end
talk
up
about that
talking
lean 90
sci-fi.
so much.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
right.
Yeah. But yeah, back to your Hembry question. Yeah, we do have some Hembry shows coming up. I think we'll be in Kansas City actually in February or when are we? February?
Yeah, we should have prepared for that.
Yeah, I
End of
know.
February, we'll be back with Hembry.
End of February.
Yeah, and then we'll be
We'll have,
doing.
to, we'll have to get a hang in when you guys are in town.
Oh, for
please
sure,
do.
man.
Yeah, that'd be great to get back on with those guys.
Let's make it happen.
All right, dude.
All
Thank
right,
you so
guys.
much.
Thank you so much. All right, I'll talk to y'all later.
Yeah,
All right, bye.
thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much for listening this week and every week. If you want more of the Chalkboard podcast, make sure you check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also visit our website, chalkboardpodcast.com. And now you can even listen to us on our YouTube channel for all those times you're at work. If you're a regular listener or you just loved what you heard, make sure you rate, share, and subscribe to this podcast, however you listen to it. Our theme is Killers, written and performed by Salar Rajabnik, and you can find his music on Apple Music and Spotify, or really wherever you get your music. That's it for the Chalkboard this week. We will see you next time.